Be brave with your life so others will be brave with theirs. Catherine Center. Welcome. I am Miranda Pierce, Pacific Northwest wife and stay-at-home mom, former bling boss with Pierce's Paparazzi, and this is Making Yourself at Home. I just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone who has listened so far and all the support over the last couple weeks. In talking to some friends and family member about the show, I have realized just how great a reminder it has been for me and the things that I know and I need to continue to practice as well. But also it's just such a blessing to share the things that have worked for me with others. I envision this show being a lot about what I learned working from home and running a business from home, but it is obviously so much more than that. It spans way farther than just the business realm. So thank you so much for being here, and please feel free to spread the love. Last week, we talked a little bit about how to find your spark, how to find something that you are passionate and excited about. And this week, we're going to talk about how we share that with others. Now, I don't know if you're like me, but I love watching other people's talents. I love it. I joke that that's one of my talents, is enjoying other people's talents. I love to watch cooking shows and musical performances, and I love the storytelling ability of writers and directors with movies and with books. Now, sharing your light, sharing your talents is a vulnerable act. It's not easy, and for many, it is quite daunting. We hit those mental barricades like we talked about last week. Those doubts and those excuses tend to creep in. I don't have time or energy. I'm barely surviving my day-to-day to-dos. I just can't add on more. So how do we get past that fight or flight? I wanted to start by sharing a few examples from my life of people who are really good at sharing their light. And maybe it'll help us learn some things as well. First is my mom. And there's so many different things that I could talk about my mom forever. But the few things that came to my mind about this particular topic, one is, ironically enough, working from home. I ran a at-home business for 5 years, and it wasn't until like the tail end of it that I realized that it really wasn't ironic. I was one of those people that was like, I've never foresaw myself social selling. I never saw myself running a business at home. This wasn't something I had planned for myself, or that I had like this huge desire to do, which is a very stereotypical thing to say. But I guess it's really not all that ironic, because my mom did the same thing. She had a scrapbook business that she worked from home, and then she would take tables to vendor events and things, just like I did with my jewelry. But then also she was a piano teacher. She taught piano lessons out of our home for many years. And it was just embedded in me early that you could use your talents and your interests to better the lives of others, and also help your family's, financial stability. And that was possible. I think that's a huge thing, is just knowing that it's possible. Another thing that comes to my mind about my mom is my youngest brother is autistic. So that in and of itself was a huge curveball, and we all had to learn a lot from that. When we all were at the age where we were all in school, us 4 kids, and my mom decided to go back to work, she ended up working in the school district as a paraeducator for the preschool special needs program, and was able to help other families that were going through similar experiences that we had already gone through with my brother. She really truly embodies that quote that I read at the beginning, that being brave so that others can be brave as well. Next is my business. The community that it created still astounds me. In 2020, especially when everything was shut down, it became very little about going live on social media platforms to sell product, and a lot more about going live to connect and to check in with each other weekly. In fact, there was a day, that was one of the worst days of the pandemic for me. It came with a lot of self-realization, not the good kind. I was super overwhelmed. And it takes a lot for me to cancel going live. And that day I just couldn't do it. I could not be on camera. I couldn't bring myself to do it. So I did a little post saying this is the new rescheduled day and time for the live sale. And I just went about my day. I ended up getting a message from a friend and customer who hadn't seen my post, but I'm kind of glad that she didn't. And she could have just said hi. She could have, kept it really simple. She could have been like, well, when are you on next, so that I could shop for this and that. But instead, she immediately asked, are you okay? Is everything okay? And that has always stuck with me. It's so simple, but it meant so much. Our founders of that company deemed its consultants an army of hope that year, because my experience happened, very similar experiences to mine happened all over the place. Last is a couple different friends that I had when I was living in Bremerton, Washington, a few years back. I won't name names, but I'm sure one of them at least will know who she is. But they were an example to me, because sometimes sharing your spark with somebody is not something physical, tangible, formal. It doesn't have to be a business, doesn't have to be a talent. It sometimes is paying compliments and building others up. It's about letting people feel heard. It could be validating people's feelings. Sometimes it's seeing a need and filling it without being asked. And I saw this in these two women, for myself and my family, but also for others. It was little texts. It was invites. It was meals. It was little gifts. It was saved hand-me-downs for my kids. I think we overthink it. I think we overthink sharing our spark. Small, conscious, intentional effort to remain open about those things that we love will create so much opportunity to inspire, to motivate, to empower, to encourage others. And sometimes we're not even aware of it. That's really one of the biggest takeaways that I got from running an at-home business. I did have a small team for a time, but I also had a lot of women reach out, and not to join, but to share that seeing me work my business, seeing me on lives, doing something that I loved, helped them feel like it was possible to find their thing. I had friends go back to school. I had friends start beauty school so that they could be hairstylists. Saw some women start their own at-home businesses over things that they were passionate about. So many different things. It happened on more than one occasion. And I don't say this to toot my own horn at all. It just showed me the power that comes from if you're doing the things that you love openly, people see it and they are affected by it. It's not a small thing. One thing it's so ridiculously simple that one thing I love to do and try to focus in on, a place to start, if you will, in being open about the things that you love to do or the talents that you might have, is to be very honest and specific in opportunities like this one. A question that is asked on the reg by friends, family, coworkers, what have you, neighbors, is, how was your weekend? Or what did you do this weekend? And you're being handed the opportunity on a silver platter. You could be super specific and tell them, well, I was able to teach this class at church, or I was able to practice the piano. I was able to go for a run. I tried out this awesome new recipe. Whatever it is that you love to do, be super duper honest about what you're doing with people. That is just an awesome excuse, like way to focus in on it, because it comes up, it's natural in asking what you did. Nextly, I would say, don't be afraid to share your spark on social media if you're comfortable. Now, I know that the internet has a lot of naysayers, and it could be another one of those really daunting things. There's a lot of negativity that brews online, but there's also people who you haven't met that will root for you till the cows come home. They will cheer you on unceasingly, and they will offer you encouragement and validation, and there's so much empowerment out there as well. But one question I'd like to pose to you to get you thinking about that possibility is, if your social media page was the only source of information on you, the only way somebody knew who you were, what would they know? It's an interesting thought. Maybe there is sides of you and talents and hobbies and interests you might have that nobody would ever know about if that's all they knew about you. So maybe it warrants sharing a little bit more of those things to give people a fuller picture. The last thing I would offer tonight is to practice. Like anything that's worth a dang in this world, we need to practice sharing our light. It won't come overnight. So give yourself some grace. It may not be perfect. You might experience missed opportunities. I know for me, I have those all the time where I go, oh, I could have offered to do that. I should have said this. You just have those moments where I'm like, man, I could have just handled that so much better. But over time, you will get better at knowing yourself, knowing your purpose, and knowing how to connect with others. So here's my challenge for you. Try one thing this week that shares your spark even if it's out of your comfort zone. A journey starts with a single step, right? So start small. Start scared. Just start. Just start. You'll be surprised where it might take you and who you inspire all along the way. As always, I'm in your corner. Please feel free to check out our socials, reach out and let us know how you are sharing your spark, or if you have any suggestions as to things that you want to learn on here. Next Thursday, we will be back with a special Easter episode that I am so excited to share with you guys. Until then, have the best week.